told Katie move it up to 11:30, so we're right on time where we need to be. Just finished probably about a 90-play jersey scrimmage where you try to create situations that makes it as competitive as it can, and we kind of tailored the rules a little bit different than we had in the spring, just because I didn't want to get in the spring. You probably got 60 plays with the ones, 60 with the twos. We didn't have any threes in the spring, but today I wanted to get probably about 30 with the ones and twos, and that's what we got. But it was 30, really good plays, and I was really pleased with what we saw. The offense ended up winning the jersey scrimmage. They kept the blue jerseys, and at the end of the day, it was because of turnovers. I told the guys, defensively, if you don't get takeaways, you're not going to win the jersey scrimmage. Offensively, if you don't turn the ball over, you will win the jersey scrimmage. There was only one turnover, and the result is that the offense kept the jersey. So from there, I'll kind of open it up. I'm sure we have some questions, and we'll go from here.
Hey, Marcus, I wonder if you could bring us an update on the injury situation with some players that we've noticed that have missed time in the last couple of days, specifically Jared Patterson.
Yep, Pat has a foot sprain. Right now we're being cautious on his return. We got to rest it. We think that it's really for him, it's going to be once we get probably through about a 10-day period of resting, it will be he can go as he can tolerate the pain. So right now I would say he's questionable for Ohio State, but I know Pat and I know his mentality, and again, as a head coach, I expect him probably to be out there just because I know the type of competitor he is. But that's kind of where we're at right now. Listening to the doctors, hey, we'll rest it for 7 to 10 days and then kind of let him go full speed. But it's a foot sprain that happened in practice on Monday.
Levon Whitaker, back row in the camera.
Coach, back here, how you doing? Who made that turnover in the scrimmage today, and what exactly happened?
It was one of those situations. I think it was Tyler was rolling out, getting ready to go out of bounds, and threw it across his body, which we know we don't like. I can't remember who. I think Tariq Bracy picked it off, and it's one of those teaching moments that, hey, I would much rather on third down throw the ball out of bounds than turn the ball over. So, again, you never want to turn the ball over, right? But you always, as a head coach, look for those teaching moments. And that's a moment that Tyler knows that he wish he can take back and just, he's a competitor. He wants to get every inch, man, and make a good decision throwing the ball out of bounds.
Would you rather him make those decisions now, those bad decisions now, so you can fix them ahead of the season?
Yeah, obviously I don't want him to do that. But, again, you're always looking for teaching moments. And again, that's one of those moments that you'll be able to teach from that hopefully won't repeat itself.
Eric Hansen, front row, far right.
Hey, Coach.
How are we doing?
Who steps in for Jarrett Patterson at guard while he's out?
We've kind of rotated between Kristofik and Rocco. Both of those guys have really kind of rotated in there at that guard spot in the past 2 days.
And then we saw number 26 in a blue jersey yesterday. Yeah. With regard to Watts, is that a temporary thing? Is that a permanent thing for the season in your mind at this point?
It's a now thing. And
now thing.
Right now he was in blue 26, but he was also in white 4 today. So He did both sides of the ball today and did a really good job, to be able to go over there and help us on offense. We're obviously down some numbers, and then next thing you know, the next series in on defense. It talks to his character. And he was really, really progressing as a safety, and the unselfishness out of him. We left it up to him, hey, we need a couple bodies on offense. We need some guys to help us out. We're down in wideouts, and he's like, Coach, if it's what's best for the team, I'm going to do it. And so he's been going on offense and defense.
Thank you.
John Bryce, front row, short right.
Hey, Marcus, from the earlier teamwork that you've gotten in this camp to what you saw today, maybe what were some of the biggest strides that you felt your team made?
I think it's the ability to run the football. That's something that I've been really, really pushing on our offense and pushing really on our entire team, is that we have to be able to run the football and stop the run, because running the football to me really creates so much space in terms of the pass game. When a defense feels like they got to do everything in their power to stop a run, being on the defensive side, I understand that when you don't feel like you can stop the run at will, you try to do different things defensively, and all of a sudden that opens up the pass game. And so to see our offense run the ball today and really do a good job, of really being positive in the yardage. In terms of running the ball, it was really good to see. And again, the decision making. We had some big plays on offense today. Some balls downfield. Tyler threw some great balls downfield, and we saw some guys make some big plays. And Drew threw some balls downfield and made some good plays. And so those are the things that, again, it all is created from being able to run the ball. And you run the ball, it opens up the pass game.
And then you and several of your coaches have talked about the sense of urgency. The time is now every day in this preseason camp. What specifically are some of the things that you guys have done to ratchet up that sense of urgency and drive home that message?
I think it's the intensity. It's the good on good, and we've done more good on good probably than I've ever done. But I think it's what's necessary in terms of developing an identity, developing a confidence in the things that you're good at. And that's probably the biggest thing is that, hey, we're not going to do a whole bunch of scout work right now. We're going to go ones on ones, twos on twos, and we're going to be competitive. And, again, that's the reason. Injuries can be a result of that. It's called training camp. I just told them it's supposed to be hard. You're battling against each other. And now as we are about 2 weeks out, we have to be really smart in terms of how we'll prepare, obviously, for Ohio State as we move forward. But I was really pleased with the 11 practices or 12 practices that we've had. This group's competitive, man. They really don't care how they feel. They go out there and work, and you challenge them, and they always rise to a challenge. And so I'm excited to coach this group and was really happy with what I saw today.
Tim Priester, back row middle.
Coach, not knowing how any of the foot injuries have occurred, there have been a few even dating back to the summer. Have you seen any kind of common thread or suspect any kind of common thread?
No, just what happens, I guess, with working out and practice and the foot injuries. I mean, Jadarian Price, that's an Achilles injury that is going to happen no matter what, I know we had Liz Frank early in the summer, but those are injuries that happen across college football. I mean, every year you see a guy with a Liz Frank or a foot injury, and I mean, it's a part of this game. It's a tough, grueling game that the only way to prepare your team is to make it hard and to work at it. Like, if we didn't have to go out there and bang each other and work really hard and be ready to play on September 3rd, we would do that. But we know as a coaching staff that this is what's necessary to prepare your team to play a grueling 12-game season, guaranteed 12 games, and it's what it takes. And until somebody tells me otherwise, you have to trust the preparation and your process to getting your team ready.
It sounds like Logan Diggs is getting a little antsy with that red jersey. Can you give any clarity as to when he might be put in a blue jersey?
Yeah, we expect next week.
Mike Berardino, middle.
Lorenzo Styles and that whole family, what was it like to be in recruitment of Sonny, I guess, and to know the mom? Why is his mother such a driving force in that their mother?
Oh, she's a strong presence in that household, a strong personality, loves those boys. And listen, throughout the recruiting process, you get to know a lot of people, and she was the one you better spend a lot of time with and have a lot of conversations with. But Miss Styles has been great. It'll be interesting, obviously, on September 3rd. She's going to have a son on each team, and so I know that won't be easy, but, she is an unbelievable force for that family.
And then just maybe some housekeeping on the rest of the offensive line, guys that we didn't see out there yesterday. We haven't seen Carmody in a while, and there was a slew of backups that weren't there.
Yep.
Can you inform us on that?
Carmody's still in concussion protocols. The rest of those guys were out there today more so in non-contact. So, there's a return to play progression that we have, that our doctors have, and we have to trust our doctors in terms of making sure our players are safe. And so a lot of those guys are just in that return to play protocol in terms of, you have to get your baseline test where it needs to be. You have to be able to do physical activity without having any symptoms before you can really start the physical contact. And so all those guys are really working through that progression, but we expect everybody to be back.
All five of those other guys like Baker, Wagner, Coogan, and Johnson were in that.
Yep, Coogan practiced today. He was practiced, yep. Baker, who else? Emil, yeah.
Johnson and Wagner.
Yeah, yep. We expect him to be back.
Sean Steyer's back row far left.
Marcus, it's only been obviously a few days since you announced Tyler as the quarterback, but you talked about the need to kind of get that done. Have you seen any sort of tangible effects on the field in the short amount of time?
Yeah, I think there's that consistency amongst who's the voice in that huddle, and who's the voice on the field with the ones, and I think that's important, that cohesiveness, that consistency in terms of who's making the calls, who's making the checks, and knowing who's at quarterback. So we thought it was really important to do it, and I've been pleased with what I've seen from. I mean, it's been 2 or 3 practices since we named him the starter, and so been really pleased with what I've seen.
And then could you just talk a little about what you've seen from Tobias so far in camp?
Yeah, he made some big catches today. I can't remember how many, but he made some big catches. And again, you got to remember, he just got here in June. And, he goes out there and he looks physically like he's been in college for a year or two. And he plays the game at a high level. And then you got to remember that the guy's only been here for 2 months. And so he's been doing a really, really good job. He's continuing to learn the playbook and understand the exact details of the wide receiver position. There's so much that goes into that position and all the positions, but that position. And I've been really pleased with the plays he's made, the way he's been able to fight. Usually freshmen kind of hit this wall when they're like, oh, man, this is different than high school. I've been pleased with seeing Tobias continue to push through that wall.
Tim O'Malley, back row middle.
Coach, we see Coach Mason tomorrow for interviews. He can put a finer point, but have you guys been able to discern kicker, punter? I know it was obviously punter. You didn't even have them here in the spring, so have you been able to get through that in camp, or is it stretched a little longer?
I haven't talked to him. We haven't really decided on a punter. I know Sott's been probably taking more reps with the ones. Groupie is the number one kicker. He was awesome today. He 3 for 4 I wrote down, made a 53-yarder. He made a 53-yarder, missed a 53-yarder, and that's right on that fringe area. Do you go for it? Do you punt it? But it was really good to see. He's been really consistent over the last few practices when we've been kicking field goals, and it's been really good to see.
We saw 3 talented freshmen in returns. We saw Payne, Merriweather, and I think we've seen Mickey fielding punts. How do you balance the freshmen fielding punts, kickoffs in high-pressure situations versus being careful also because you're low on numbers at running back with Tyree or receiver at Lindsey? It seems like a balancing act.
Yeah, I think you got to put the person back there, number one, that is going to make good decisions, right? You got to put the person back there that you can depend on, will catch the punt, will really, make the decisions, the right decisions. I would say if we played today, it would be Brandon Joseph, being a punt returner. But it's good to have some young guys that are back there catching punts that you feel confident can get the job done. And so, again, as I tell Coach Mason all the time, it's just about decision-making back there. We have to make good decisions. The next part of that, can we make plays? Can you be explosive in terms of the return game?
Pete Sampson, front row on your left.
You seem to have enough depth on the defensive line and even at linebacker with the 4 older guys that I would think it would give you, Al Golden, some chance to be creative in sub-packages, down and distance scenarios. Like, how much have you been able to put that in? How much has he been able to sort of push the envelope based on the older personnel that you have?
I think they've learned a lot of football just having this as their 3rd coordinator, But the thing we've tried to do since Al has gotten here is keep some consistency in what we've done defensively. And, what I don't want to do, I don't care how long you've been here, if you can't play fast because you're thinking about what you got to do, then, you're going to be slow on defense. You're not going to, be really good. And so we're trying to keep some consistency in what we're doing and what we've done in the past. There's obviously been some enhancements in terms of, Coach Golden's experience, his years of being a defensive coordinator, being in the NFL. But the basics of what we're going to do it's not going to change.
If Jarrett Patterson's out 7 to 10 days, that would get you to next Saturday, which would be a full week before Ohio State. What would you need to see from him? How much would he actually need to practice the week of the game to feel comfortable playing him?
It's going to be on him. It's going to be, his pain tolerance and how much he can perform at the level we expect him to with the pain. He might feel great. I talked to him today. He said he feels great, And so, again, this isn't something we got to do what's best for J-Pat. If he's ready to go, he's going to play. If he's not ready to go, then we'll get him ready for when he's ready to go.
Andrew Mentok, front row on your right.
Hey, Coach. I was wondering how would you evaluate the play of Brandon Joseph thus far in camp, and what skill sets does he, especially add to the back end?
Yeah, I think he's a natural leader. He's confident, which is extremely important playing the defensive back position because listen, if you're not confident, I don't know any defensive back, corner, or safety that hasn't been confident in what he does. That's been successful. You've got to be confident, and B. Joe's very confident. He's made plays. You know, you got to be a playmaker back there. He's done that. He's very vocal in making checks and making sure everybody's on the same page, and so that's been good. You know, he's got to continue to improve just like everybody else. You know, there was a play on the goal line I wanted him to make to end the scrimmage. But that's why we're coaching. That's why he's here to make him better. But he's been doing a really good job.
And when evaluating him as a potential transfer, how important was it to look at, you know, some of the successes he's had in like big games, for instance, in the Big Ten championship 2 years ago, to see that he can kind of rise to that occasion?
Yeah, that's something we evaluate no matter if you're in high school or in college, you're a transfer. Like, we want to see how you play in those big games, right? That competitive spirit that you have to have. Well, you know, it's easy to, you know, kind of show out versus maybe a lesser team. We want to see how these recruits, high school or college, perform in the biggest games. And if they don't show up, we get a little bit worried. You know, Brandon Joseph shows up in the biggest games that he played in, and I'm not surprised he's having success here.
Tyler Horka, back row on your right.
Coach, over here. We saw Jaden Thomas in the pit again yesterday, fully suited. Just curious what his status is.
Yeah, just caution. He had a tight hamstring, a grade 1 strain from Monday. We're just being cautious. We expect him to be back soon, but just not yet. Yeah.
And then with the way things are going with that unit, obviously we've seen Xavier work with them this week. How much of Holden Stays and Eli Raridan become options as pass catchers? I know they probably have a little bit of ways to go to get in the mix as tight ends, but it just seems like athletically they're ready to go out there, run routes, catch passes right now.
Yeah, they both have done a really good job of learning the offense of playbook and really being able to go out and perform at the level Coach Parker and Coach Reese has demanded. And those guys, I think both of them will play for us this year, and both of them are viable weapons in terms of the run game and the pass game. And so those will be guys, I don't know how much we'll see them early, but those will be guys I believe we'll count on this season.
We'll stay back row on your right.
Marcus, in talking about confidence in defensive backs, what kind of strides have you seen there from the corners, mainly those top 3 guys and upperclassmen?
Yeah, I mean, Tariq had a pick today. Cam Hart's been really practicing at a high level. He's probably been the one that stuck out the most in terms of these first 10, 11 practices. Reek is consistent in what he does, and C. Lou he's done a great job in terms of, again, the consistency. So you got 3 older veteran corners that really can play at any moment, which makes you feel good, that those 3 guys can play those 2 corner spots, and I don't feel there will be a drop-off with any of them.
What was the post-spring or early camp challenge from either you or Coach Golden or Mickens to Cam in particular, as someone who seemed to kind of be on a pretty upward trajectory last year?
Yeah, it goes back to our culture, challenge everything, find a better way to do whatever you're doing. You're not just we didn't give them just one particular thing. You got to improve at tackling. You got to improve at covering. It's evaluate everything you do and find ways to enhance it. And I believe he has.
We got one from Zoom. Brian Driscoll.
Coaches want to scrimmages and practices, and the offensive coaches want to do the same thing. But as a head coach, do you have kind of like an end result on offense, defense battles that kind of makes you feel kind of comfortable with how both sides are progressing, is kind of reaching their full potential as you get closer to game day?
Yeah, I think that, in previous years or maybe in future years, some of these scrimmages you'll play more plays. And this year has been something where we've done so many good-on-good situations throughout the first 11 practices that I wanted to get 30 good reps with the 1s and 30 good reps with the 2s, and we got 20 good reps with the 3s, and that's all we needed to really get a feel for exactly what this team was going to be about and exactly what our identity was going to be. And so it changes every year depending on your team. But today was the last day that we'll probably go live in terms of taking ball carries to the ground, really until we go against Ohio State. And so today was really necessary to do it. Good. All right, guys. Thank you.